They chose the incarnation. They chose the parents. They chose the job. They chose the lower vibe 3D experience. But you have to know that you're the absolute. You are the knower. You do know. Deep down in your cells, you do know. And that's why we meditate, friends. So you can connect with that absolute consciousness, the cosmic seer. And that gives you so much power and juice and fearlessness. But you got to shake this idea that you're just a body and a mind. You got to shake this idea that you have a biography and that your mommy and daddy are really your mommy and daddy. No, they're not. You're in a dream. So you have to trust that you're far greater than what's just appearing here. And something inside of you already knows that. That's the cells of your body, the intuition's like, yeah, totally, I feel this, but this doesn't get it. Keep trusting intuition and keep meditating so that you can connect with that greater mind, the cosmic mind, and then instantly the cells of your body are going to turn on and you won't even have those questions anymore. You're just going to know.
Welcome back to the podcast. We are joined today by none other than Anna Brown. I've been a fan of Anna's for many years. Her teachings are wonderfully profound, and they center on consciousness and the embodiment of mindfulness. In this uplifting conversation, we explore how human consciousness is evolving. Anna shares practical wisdom on how to observe the observer, how to detach from the static of the mind, and the vital importance of training our bodies to rest in the heart chakra. We discuss how the external world is a direct reflection of our internal state, and how self-love and gratitude are the ultimate tools for quantum jumping into a higher vibration. Join us as we stop waiting for a savior and start embodying the Christ consciousness that is already within us. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy solstice. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, my friends. Enjoy this conversation. My God, Anna Brown, I started watching your videos and they just resonated with me so profoundly. And I was like, you speak on so many things, and I'm like, she has, your knowledge about the quantum field, and I'm just like, I'm a longtime student of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I've learned a
Nice.
lot from him. And I was like, I wonder if Anna's been exposed to his work. She's so,
Totally.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I thought so. I was like, I got to talk to her. And so years went by, and finally here we are. So, it's amazing for me. It's a small dream come true, believe it
A
or
little
not.
blessing. Yeah.
Yes,
Ditto. Yeah.
absolutely. So I think the most relevant things that we can talk about today, not that maybe they weren't just as relevant, when I first started watching your videos a couple of years ago, but, people are feeling very overwhelmed, because a lot of the outlets they still are, sticking their nose in are, in many ways designed to overwhelm, but they're feeling drained by modern life. And, I would love for you to share your perspective on what's actually happening to human consciousness right now.
We're evolving and we're here to wake up, and we all have to take that inner responsibility of connecting with awareness and training our bodies into higher states of consciousness, which is connecting with the heart chakra. We chose this incarnation, but we also have to elevate our frequency consciously. So it is a practice, it is a dedication and a devotion, but we can do it. We're the light of God,
We are. We have that
Yes,
divine spark in us.
that's right, sir.
And I don't believe there's anything we can't do, particularly if we decide to unite and put our collective minds to it.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
I'm looking forward to the day humanity wakes up and realizes that we're making this all up. And if we want it to change, all we have to do is decide together,
Absolutely. Hive mind, for sure. Yes.
So when someone feels off or disconnected or depleted, where do you think that experience is coming from? Is it internal? Is it external? Is it something in between?
You could say it's both, because the external is the internal, but it's a sign to slow down and connect with your breath, connect with awareness, and take time to elevate your body's frequency. So there's nothing wrong with feeling drained or tired. It's just a signal like, hey, time for some self-care, time for some self-love, time to reevaluate where we're spending our time and our energy, our consciousness. And there's a lot of reformatting through our evolutionary processes. What used to work a year ago may not totally vibe now. So we just have to keep reconfiguring and realigning aligning with the highest states of consciousness, moment to moment, breath to breath.
I have an old, I was an actor for 20 years, and when I went to school, they taught us how to sing. Many of us didn't quite know how. And then my teacher was an opera singer, professional, and she would say, "With each breath comes salvation, Faust." And I was like, God, that's profoundly true. You know, sometimes all it takes is one good deep breath,
That's
to
right.
become
That's
present.
I like her. And plus, singing is a powerful way to raise your vibration. It's so powerful.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Her name was Nova. She had a great name as well.
Mm, I love it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so, your work, you help people recognize the difference between reacting unconsciously and responding with awareness. And we certainly have that in common. When I'm not posting videos and podcasts about a lot of things that particular aspects of our society would rather people remain ignorant of. I'm also talking about this incredible, awareness of consciousness and how it is the only way to override our unconscious reactions. But can you speak a little to that, because you speak so well about it?
We got to learn to observe the observer. We got to observe the thoughts, observe the emotions without reaction. And that's a practice of detachment. And when you really practice observing the observer and detaching, you realize there's an intuitive intelligence here that's not a person. I call it God or the cosmos, but it's the formless self. And we all can access this, but it's a skill that you have to practice. You have to desire this more than you want to keep going in the stress of the cortisol and the adrenaline, all those hormones. So it's really training your body, because your body's your vehicle for experience. But you need to know that you're the consciousness, the presence driving the vehicle, not the other way around. Hence why we begin meditation practices, so we can really connect with the formless realm of self.
And it's a fantastic way to begin to tap into many things that will remain subconscious without that drive, that desire to change. We become a set of programs, and those programs act no different than any addiction. And so there's a lot of struggle. I have gone through it myself, and it's there's always work to be done. But that was changing is one of the hardest things a human can endeavor to do, particularly when he or she has become the way they've become because of a bunch of subconscious programs inherited from childhood and the womb. And then there's even ancestral trauma. We inherit a whole bunch of stuff when we incarnate, and many of us will never become aware of why we do the things we do, and others have a desire to figure it out in order to optimize this incredible experience called life. Yeah. So there's a lot of people, like someone is having a really difficult day, right? Like emotional dysregulation, irritation, anxiousness. What would you say is the most immediate way for them to shift their inner state in that moment? Like, what do you do for
Hand on the heart chakra, because just putting your hand here, it brings awareness into the space, because consciousness loves sensation. So if you have a little pressure on your heart, it's easier to drop your focus here, which means now we're in the internal realm of consciousness. And it's also kind of a I love you, like in a support to yourself. And we can begin just being mindful and breathing, which is meditation. But from there, I would highly recommend a morning and evening ritual or practice so that you can get ahead of it. You know what I mean? So we don't have to have the anxiety or the panic attack. We're training our body in the morning and the evening to really come into peace, come into empowerment, come into stillness, because in stillness is where all of our power is. So begin that practice right here, right now, hand on heart. I love you. I love you.
I love you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important. I had a wise woman say to me once, take the elevator from your head to your heart, and literally get in, imagine getting in an elevator and pressing down and going down, and then just starting to breathe in and out of this energy center here, this heart chakra, and watch how it changes everything. And whenever I can remember to do that, God, it doesn't matter what I'm afraid of, what's happening, everything kind of drops away because I really believe that the heart knows no fear. Fear has to live in the mind. There's no space
Yes.
for it in the heart.
Mhm. No, and this is really a portal to the higher dimensions. Like this is our access into the new earth state of consciousness. So it's really, you're going to quantum jump when you learn to keep your awareness here and breathe here. It's an energetic shift. Totally.
Totally is. And like you said, routine and consistency will arm you. I hate to use the word arm, but will build up a resilience in you,
Yes.
so that you don't have that kind of half your day is not spent in that trying to shake that feeling of anxiety and emotional dysregulation and feeling so disconnected. That's what having a good practice does. That's why I'm always encouraging it. I'm like, why would you leave everything to chance? You know what I mean? Like you're a creator.
Yes.
You can begin and end the way you want, and your whole day is going to be a different experience if you have the discipline to do that. And discipline is just, I say that because it takes a little bit of discipline to start. But once you
Mm,
start, you don't want it. You would never want it any other way.
right.
That's the big secret. It's no longer something you have to do. It's something that you want to do. You really and
Yes.
you love to do. And
Yes.
many more people are figuring that out. And God willing, more and more people continue to wake up and realize that a little bit goes a long way.
It really, really does. And it's just like training a muscle, just like doing push ups. The more you do it, the easier it gets and the more swollen you are. Same thing with
Hmm.
the heart space. Yeah.
Literally.
Literally. Like
It's
literally.
it's so cool. It's
Yes.
like the heart is that's one of the sole reasons I'm sitting here talking to you, is because I was on this heart opening journey. I was an actor who
Yeah.
had built Fort Knox over his heart, and I had no
Mm.
idea why. And lo and behold, I went on this mission to heal myself to become a great actor. And of
Mhm.
course, in that healing journey, I realized that I was healing myself so that I could
Mm.
be a better human being,
Right.
and everything that I do, and allow my emotions and be vulnerable and not, but I think that there's a lot of people who, like myself, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
um
Mm.
and so for people who are running into the same patterns,
Mm.
running into the same kind of, let's say, relationships, stuck in the same kinds of jobs that are not fulfilling, what advice do you have for them? Like, what are they doing? What are they doing wrong?
Not doing anything wrong. They chose the incarnation. They chose the parents. They chose the job. They chose the lower vibe 3D experience. But you have to know that you're the absolute. You are the knower. You do know. Deep down in your cells, you do know. And that's why we meditate, friends. So you can connect with that absolute consciousness, the cosmic seer. And that gives you so much power and juice and fearlessness. But you got to shake this idea that you're just a body and a mind. You got to shake this idea that you have a biography and that your mommy and daddy are really your mommy and daddy. No, they're not. You're in a dream. So you have to trust that you're far greater than what's just appearing here. And something inside of you already knows that. That's the cells of your body. The intuition's like, yeah, totally, I feel this, but this doesn't get it. Keep trusting intuition and keep meditating so that you can connect with that greater mind, the cosmic mind. And then instantly the cells of your body are going to turn on and you won't even have those questions anymore. You're just going to know.
Hmm.
Like every cell of your body's online. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful in so many ways, and has such a profound effect. It's really hard to even put into some kind of summary of words, the effects of having this kind of practice. I've experienced it firsthand. I'm sure it's why I ended up watching your videos. They resonated so much with me. You know, you often talk about human malleability. The idea that, listen, we're not fixed. No, it may feel like that, and maybe many people are even taught that, like he's never going to change. People don't change, but how do you understand that malleability in daily life, not just like philosophically or intellectually?
Well, I think when you have the direct experience, there's no turning back from it. When your reality starts to flicker in and out, you start to see through the veil, you just can't go back to believing this is a solid reality. But consciousness can appear very solid like ice. It can appear like steam, or it can appear like water. So that's all the different formations that you consciousness can take, but you have to go back to the formless realm to change the external. The external is not real, it's not fixed, it's not solid unless you have a stationary belief that it is. That's why you change your mind, you change your reality, because the mind is transmitting these codes into creation, which I just call a hologram. So that's why it all comes back to you raising your vibration. The higher you vibrate, the more transparent reality is. The lower you vibrate, the denser and crustier and linear it becomes, babe. So
Hmm.
we got to just open that heart, raise that vibration with consciousness.
And I think that's the secret. People get very heady about, like all the different metaphysical teachings that we learn. But I'm like, if you're stuck here, you can't really go up there. You may want to reach all the way to the Pleiades, Arcturus. You may have a desire to commune with, beings from Andromeda. But if you don't clear this out,
Mm-hmm.
that your signal is not going to be strong enough to really reach out, and maybe not reach out to the entities or beings that would be the most beneficial for you to actually communicate with. I learned that. I don't know. What would you say to
Well,
people
well,
who are skipping that, but they're like, well, I'll come back around to the heart.
Well, I mean, in either way, whether you do have like that path of speaking to galactic consciousness or it's just full embodiment for you, either way, it's about your embodiment. Because I've sat with many beings who do, I've seen these different connections or these aliens or whatever. There's no alien in consciousness, but they're not really embodied in the heart chakra yet. They're just really still trying to channel and connect, but they're not really embodying Christ consciousness or that high vibe love. So I'm more interested in you understanding you're the alien, you're the galactic, and let's get the show on the road and go ahead and embody that celestial energy. I get that addiction too of like,
Hmm.
let's connect, but honey, like you're actually it in disguise. Why not
Hmm.
embody it and bring those codes here now? That's the point of incarnation,
Yeah,
truly. Yeah.
absolutely. That's where all the magic lies. And then understanding that this notion that there are aliens, and I'm like, what do you? You just have to laugh at where humanity is right now and our understanding of ourselves. Because I'm like, what do you think we're doing here? How do you think we got here?
I know, dude.
What is an alien? You're waiting for the aliens to what arrive? What do you think is going to change? I was
Right, but there's boots on the ground, you could say. And also, if we have that idea of like, oh, we're waiting on them to come, what's the difference between that and the Christians believing in Jesus coming back?
exactly.
No, honey, you're the savior. You incarnated for this. You are that star being.
That's
We all
right.
are. Yeah.
I said that the other day to a friend. I was like, I, you know, I don't believe in a savior. I don't believe I need a savior,
Hmm.
and, I think that the Catholic in them reeled a little from that statement. But as a former Catholic,
I get
I
it,
can,
man. Same here. Yeah.
I can make it. I don't, I just wonder where do you think that there's this thing in humanity that displaces our power and our sovereignty, and puts it in this external figure that we have to apparently wait for, and when they get here, apparently people think that he or she is just they're gonna clean up all the mess for us,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
just everyone just chill out, because the bad people are gonna get what's coming to them,
Hmm.
and it'll all be taken care of once Jesus gets here. And I'm just like, there's a real problem with that thinking.
Yes, yes, it's a waiting game, but it's like
Yeah.
Christ is a consciousness that we are embodying, us willing conduits who are opening up and really embodying this. We're the second coming. But we have to remember too that that's a responsibility and a sense of dedication and devotion. It can be a lot easier just to go back and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch TV. I'm just gonna go back asleep and just kind of go along with the humdrum, go along with the herd. It's a lot easier. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about leaving a matrix, leaving
Mm-hmm.
a herd consciousness, and that takes a lot of energy to pop out of that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not for everyone.
No, no, maybe not in this life. It's not.
Exactly. Maybe not this life, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, I definitely do.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, how you see religions and how they've been foisted on our race. And I always tell people, I'm like, I'm positive that other planets don't have religion.
No.
I'm sure of it. You know, I'm sure that
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't have a creator that they
Yeah.
love and that they understand exists in all things, including them. But the division that religions have created on this planet and the amount of strife compared to maybe the amount of spiritual understanding they've created, I think is there's no balance to the scales. I think religion, in my opinion, and this is of course my opinion,
Mhm.
has always been a poison pill.
Yes.
You know, I'm just wondering what your thoughts about that are.
No, I totally agree. It comes from duality. It comes from the sense of separation, and it's been highly masculine if we have not noticed yet.
Oh yeah.
That's why we have the return of the heart, the return of the feminine, and the merging of the mind and the heart. No, we don't need the institution or the church. Honey, we are the living church. We are the living Christ. And it is such good news to speak that to those ears who want to hear that. You're
Yes.
God. You are it.
It can be very liberating, you know.
Mm.
I'll
Mm-hmm.
never forget. I was, you know, I went to Catholic school my whole life, and I was, you know, I had a lot of questions which they couldn't answer, and I was always in trouble in school, and I was always getting suspended for one thing or another. But that being that, you know, I never quite understood what they were teaching me.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in this was probably 2018. I think I was in a meditation retreat with Dr. Joe, and I had young kids at the time, and he
Mm.
just he you know he's very wise. He doesn't talk about religion. In fact, he doesn't. You would be hard pressed to realize he's talking about spirituality until you really get to know his work. He's amazing
Mhm.
that way. He attracts a larger audience when he keeps those things
Right.
out of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and he said to us, he said, "Come on," he said, so many of you are parents. Is there anything that your child could do that would make you banish him or her to eternal suffering?" And I was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I could have fallen over. I was like, absolutely not.
Right.
You know, and yet there are billions of people who imagine that the creator, you know, is going to give us free will and then punish us with eternal damnation for using it, which is a hypocrisy and a malicious thing to do, you know, and I just, you know, I answered his question honestly. I was like, absolutely not. You know, with my last breath, I will forgive them and love them and wish them well. There's nothing they could do to me.
Mm.
And it was just such a liberating moment of
Yeah.
like, duh, you know.
Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah.
you know, how do you see relationship relationship between detachment and embodiment, like especially the role of the heart and desire and, you know, feeling fully alive?
Oh, so step one is always detachment, observing the observer and realizing yourself as the light of awareness, the light of God. That has to take place first so you can kind of get out of the body, get out of the programming. We don't just stay as a hovering awareness. We don't just stay detached. We come back into the body with awareness and we activate the heart chakra so that, like, the nervous system, the cells, everything starts to turn on like little solar suns. And that's how we embody. And it's a practice because it's kind of like it's there, it's not there, it's not. And then, you know, you're creating
Mm.
like this like connection of electricity. So it takes a practice, but it has to start with detachment so you can realize your faceless and formless self. Consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned something earlier that reminded me of, you know, we get caught up in this identity, you know, and that people will white knuckle their belief systems based on this identity that they form for them, this personality. And of course, you know, we need a personality of some sort. We're operating on Earth, and we are human beings, so naturally, a personality is going to emerge. But when we over-identify with aspects of our quote identity, you know, then we become stuck when we're exposed to new information, when we're exposed to new ideas and paradigms, and many of those belief systems have built in, you know, containment systems based on fear that will keep people, you know, in a quagmire of like, you know, I don't know what to believe, you know, and I think it's, you know, it's a matter of detaching from your identity or finding a way or a reason to step back from it so that you can take a look at it and decide if it's who you really want to be, right?
Yes, yes, that's the power of observation. It's very intelligent, because there's no thought going on when you're just clearly observing. You can see
Mm-hmm.
those emotions, see the persona, and go, okay, let's shift this or let's not. Because there's good things about a persona, and there can be things that were like rooted in from trauma or something like that. So that's
Oh,
when
yeah.
we can shift and we can integrate those higher states of love.
Amen, to use a
Amen,
religious.
brother. That's right.
Desire gets a bad rep. Well,
Hmm.
maybe it does in some spiritual spaces, but how do you distinguish between ego-driven craving and something that is more authentic, that is arising from your heart, And in the same way, people tend to get their intuition confused with their anxiety. How do you tell the difference between the two?
Well, intuition's a calm energy that keeps coming through persistently and consistently. It's not like this overjarring, intense emotion that's like stressed and anxious. Intuition can keep repeating itself over and over again, like a small little voice, or just this heart charged knowing, like, do this, call them, start
Mm,
that. And it's persistent. But if you're conditioned to keep following anxiety, it feels like, no, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's why we meditate. So you can get in contact with your heart, because your heart's a different energy. It's
hmm.
inspired, not stressful. Inspired, not stressful. That's the difference.
Yeah. And the heart
Hmm.
has a mind of its own, quite
That's
literally.
right. That's right, brother.
We got the neurons to prove it now.
So cool. It's so
Yeah.
cool. It really is.
I love how science is catching up to what many of the wisdoms and sages have been teaching for hundreds, thousands of years. It's amazing.
It's a
And
great
it's
time to be
only,
alive.
it is, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So, we're surrounded by, I just had a long conversation with last night for a podcast, and we talked about both the biofield, and also the attempts that are being made by tech companies and governments and militaries, to hijack that biofield in one way or another, to control, to create a population that is far more easily governable than one that understands that death is truly an illusion and that there's nothing to fear, because without that tool, they lose all power, and so it's a constant work for them to keep creating reasons and ways to hijack, our understanding. And what do you think is because we're talking about now media, algorithms, AI,
Mm. Yeah.
um, do you think that these are neutral tools, or are they, I guess they're both, because they're certainly being used to influence states of consciousness.
Yeah, well, there's different timelines happening. Those who are choosing to go down like transhuman, they're using more of the tech than they are their own hearts. And then us who are the organic human, the new human, really stepping into our own cosmic embodiment. And my thing is just embody Christ. Make your energy field so powerful that you're untouchable. And that's the thing, because when you're resting as Christ, there's not going to be fear. If you have fear, then we're susceptible, right? You got
Hmm.
cracks in your field, so to speak. So it's just come back to love. Love is a high frequency that creates a sphere around you that you're not going to be worrying about those things anymore. Maybe they're worried about you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you just be the strongest vibration. You keep raising it to love and keep re-educating those who want to listen. And you just stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Because if you turn on the TV or you go down conspiracy alley, it's like, ugh, then it starts getting into your subconscious. And then we're going to feel a little murky and dense. So it's
Yeah.
maintaining that high vibration and staying in communities that are supporting the love of the heart and Christ consciousness.
I, I love that, what you just said. Even though I do create videos which inform people about, conspiracies that have gone on, because I feel like people have a right to know they've been lied to. And I don't know. I feel like we were just talking about identity, and my whole passion about bringing the truth to people about what may or may, what has happened in the past and what we've been told, and then what actually really happened is, this no this national identity that we have come into is a farce. It's based on lies, and in fact, I think the human race has adopted for the most part, and I say most people, I don't know if we fall into this category, but um, the events that have happened over the past 150 years, humanity tends to define itself from the most atrocious and mind-blowing things that happen, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War II, World War One, that 9/11, JFK, like
Yeah.
they orchestrate these events. They make you think that they just happened because of one thing after the next, that there's just the way it happened, and this was the reaction to it, when that's not really true. And they've shaped our beliefs about our race, as this. And if you're just looking at it from, and you don't know better, it looks pretty bad. It looks like the nature of man is fallen. It feeds into a lot of the religions. And when you know that, and you're like, wait, let me, I have a desire to illuminate people. Like, we're not, human beings are not like that. You have a few people doing that. This is not your nature. Your nature is Christ consciousness. Your nature is divine. Don't believe them when they tell you that, this is a dog eat dog world, and you just to step on someone's throat to get to where you're going. It's just part of being alive, part of being, on Earth. I guess my question for you is, what do you say to people like me, who are, I'm torn between these two worlds, because I do have a desire to illuminate people so that they can understand what has really happened, but it is for the greater evolution, of the macro, of
Right.
society.
Well, I could say this is get out of the fourth and come into the fifth. Be fully rooted in the Christ consciousness. Really teach through the heart chakra, because this is infinite paradigms. So it's true for you. That's the crazy thing about life. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theorists, they're right, because that's what they surround themselves with. That's what they believe in. And they're transmitting that loop of a hologram. Now, we need to know that consciousness is like a massive quilt. One
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, one God, one I am, playing in these different sectors, or like a TV, different channels. So yeah, that channel is real for you, but there's infinite other channels you can go play in that are higher vibrational and more coherent. And when you, as a teacher, as a guide, as a conduit, make that shift, you're going to start summoning a new collective towards you that you'll teach and train in a higher vibration, because that energy is kind of like straddling the fence. I'm
Mm-hmm.
old world still, and then partly in the new world. But deep down, let's slide over to the new world and then be the living example of that Christ consciousness, of the new earth, of the new human. And then we don't have to even tango with fear. Fuck fear. We're coming right into the heart, and we're going to teach people how to bend reality. We don't need the fucking
Mm-hmm.
government. We're sovereign. We are Christ.
True. True. I love that. Thank you. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Because it's something that I'm aware of, and I know that I like to keep one foot, on that aspect of things, but part of me feels like this, grave injustice has been done, because we've been lied to about so many things, including the
But here's the
nature.
thing, though. Who's the
Yeah.
liar when you're the only one here, love?
Mm.
And God vibrates at different frequencies, different bandwidths. So
Mm.
you just got to ask yourself, when a human's unconscious, they're going to act insane. They're going to do stupid shit. They're going to be violent. So that's why we embody the higher light and show them how to close that gap, because God bless them. Underneath every single costume is the living light of Christ. It doesn't matter if it's low vibe or high vibe. So we got to see through the conditioning of who's right, who's wrong, blaming others, because there is no
Mm.
other, brother.
Yeah. Just got to remember that. That's the challenge.
The I am, the I
Yeah.
am. Mm-hmm.
Um, so, you speak a lot about intuition, and as a natural, innate, part of our DNA, let's say, I think is safe to say, rather than this, mystical psychic thing that some people imagine it to be. And I'm not saying it can't be mystical
Oh,
or
it totally
psychic.
can.
It
Yeah,
could
it totally
totally be
can.
all those things,
Yeah.
Um, but how does someone begin to trust their intuition, without confusing it, like, let's say, with like their imagination, or
Mm. Well,
wishful
imagination's
thinking.
also Christ too, but obviously in its untamed aspect, it's all over the place. That's why we practice stillness and detachment. Observe the observer, detach right now from mind. You see,
Mm,
when you realize you can exist without thought, that's so groovy. So
mm,
it's a practice. At first, it seems like all I have is thoughts, Anna, and imagination, and just things bombarding me. Yeah, because you've never sat in stillness, you've never detached. But the more you detach, you're going to see there's an awareness here. There's an observer looking, and it doesn't need thought. It doesn't need
mm.
past or future. It's just crystal clear
Yep. It
seeing
doesn't
and
need your
intelligence.
name. It doesn't need your driver's
Yes,
license.
it already knows who you are
It
because
doesn't need your,
you and I
that's
are
right.
one. The observer and the observed are one. So it's really beginning with those simple practices. Very simple. Truth has to be simple. It's the mind that likes all the bells and whistles.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know. And there's something so just, it's, I always I had one of my guests put it in a wonderful way. He's like, when you don't, when you do that, when you learn to plug in and detach, you're plugging into source. You're plugging into the ultimate battery, and when you don't, you're not. So
Hmm.
you're depleting yourself.
Yep.
So, and I love the way he put that. And I all you have to do is experience that. And it, meditation can be challenging at first, but like you said, it's a practice. It's like training a muscle. It's like anything else. You're going to get better at it. It's going to get easier, and before you know it, you're going to be slipping in like a hot knife through butter, and
Right.
feeling that magical detachment, that nothing. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
People OD on heroin for this feeling. People
Mm.
go out of their way just to
Mm.
have this feeling. What I tell people is like, you don't have to find anything. You can do it yourself. All you need to do is close your eyes and find a quiet place.
That's right, brother. And then eventually you can do it with your eyes open too, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's next level.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right, brother.
How did you come into such a spiritual intelligence, and what, like, were you always this precocious, wide-eyed, wonderfully spiritual girl, or
You're so
like that?
cute. You're so cute. I like you. No, when I
Thank
was
you.
little, I started having glimpses. So when I was like 7 or 8 in bed one night, I just had this intuitive impression to repeat my name like a mantra. So I repeated Anna over and over again until I literally didn't even know what Anna meant. And I was just resting as awareness in bed. Super
Hmm.
clear, super still, super present. Nothing intense, just like this is natural, this is home. But then the closing came in. So I had an off and on experience since I was a child, but I also had like galactic experiences, Men in Black, all this weird shit kind of happened
Mm,
as a kid, which opened the doorways for me, if you will.
mm.
Yeah.
I always, and maybe I just heard you mention them, but I have a connection to the Arcturians, and once the moment I saw you, I was like, she's definitely has a connection to the Arcturians. But I was like, but maybe I heard you say that. Maybe I'm just guessing.
Galactic, just in general,
Yeah.
definitely. Yes, just in general. It's been my theme.
Mm,
It's not everyone's, but it's just that's what arose here naturally, you
right.
know? Yeah.
So like when you were a teenager, you went to school. At what point did this become, as if intensely focused and wonderfully seriously spiritual as it is right now in your life?
Well, like you, I was always kind of like a troublemaker in school. I never wanted to be there. I would always leave. I was just like,
Mhm.
this is
Me too.
off. Why are you telling me what to do? I was raised Catholic
Like,
as well. I didn't understand why the men was running the show because where I come from, that's not how it rolls.
mm,
So it never made sense to me. When you have one eye open as a kid, like none of it made sense, but I got into a lot of trouble. But when I graduated, I did some studies in college of religion and spirituality, which just kind of, got me into things and
yeah,
meditation. And that's kind of how it started.
it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, and so I guess there was no, you didn't have to hit, people talk about a dark night of the soul. I have a phoenix tattoo on my back,
Mm-hmm.
which took me a few years to complete, and that, rightfully so, because it had to do with the journey that I had to take, through some dark times to come out of it. And one of the things I said last night in this conversation I was having, because we talked a lot about some of the agendas happening, and my friend wisely said, he said, because I said, well, how do you stay positive in the face of like literally everything we just talked about? He said, I remember that all this has been going on since before I was born. I've had a happy childhood, a happy adulthood. He was like, and all of it will continue to go on, but I'm not going to, I can talk about it. He's like, for me, figuring things out helps me dissolve it. And then I'm no longer afraid of it. He was like, and that's not for everybody, but for me, and then I go back and I put my focus and my attention on what's really important, my,
That's
my
right.
family, my love, what I'm doing with myself. And I was like,
Yes.
that's amazing. That's great
Yeah.
advice for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and so you're like, I've kind of I've become a bit of a habitual Dr. Joe meditation. I love his meditations.
Yeah.
I'll also go and sit, if I can find, a place that there's not too many mosquitoes ready to chow down on me. I'll sit outside and in
Yeah.
nature. But
Nice.
what is do you have a specific meditation practice that you do daily?
Yeah. Every morning I just connect with my heart in stillness and silence. Sometimes I'll listen to a little bit of music that's just instrumental. Sometimes it's just nothing, my own breath. But I used to do guided, but then I just wanted to naturally connect with myself. So that's what I do. I just take time every morning to connect with my heart. And if I feel like I want to visualize something, I'll spontaneously do that if it feels right.
Mhm.
But the main thing is that high vibrational feeling of gratitude and love, raising the body's vibration into love. Yes.
And that will keep you healthy. That'll keep you happy. That'll keep you in a great mood.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so much to what you just said,
Right.
and so much power and gratitude and love.
Yes, brother.
People don't People realize the healing power of those two incredible emotions, then the world would be a different place,
Mm.
completely.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I've also been fortunate enough to be in communities where we see like what would be called medical miracles or miracles in general. These incredible things happen with people who do this work, and a lot of spontaneous remissions after years and years of battling. I'm wondering if you have any experience with that, if you've seen how incredible that can work when this work is applied to, because like you said, we have this is the projector's up here and we're down here, and people don't realize that if you change something up here, then you'll change what shows up down here. And that's what meditation and detachment allows us to begin to do. We begin to be able to tweak the projector as opposed to, looking in the mirror and trying to wipe off that smudge on our face in the mirror instead of,
Mm.
I'm wondering what your experience with that is.
Absolutely. And this kind of wrangles in your other question about a dark night of the soul. I mean, this used to have an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, and all of those things have dwindled because of my practice of realizing who I am beyond form and also guiding my body into love and gratitude. So, yeah, I'm a living case that we're healers. That's why I can't go back to believing anything from the 3D because, when you have the direct experience and you're living proof, how can you go back? You can't. You're the living proof of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it
No,
works.
it works. It's powerful, and it's non-local.
Yes.
You can learn to do it. You can learn to do it for yourself. You can learn to do it for your mom, for your brother, for your
Mm,
cousin, for
yeah.
someone who is, in a different part of the world.
Yes.
You have this incredible ability to move energy from your heart, and it has nothing to do with you as much as it is to do with your source and your connection to source. And all
Right.
you learn to do is, open that heart and then direct that energy to wherever you want. And then just give that person a call and ask them their
Mm,
experience. They're going to tell you they feel different. If
yes.
it's just
The only thing with that is,
unbelievable.
though, is they have to be open to it because they
That
have
well
free will
that
too. You know what I mean? They got to be
Yes.
open to the healing. But exactly, if they're open to it, of course we can
Yeah,
wiggle in there and we can create coherence. But if they're like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with this, get away. Of course, it's going to bounce off them like Teflon. You know what I mean?
totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. You got to
Yeah,
be open to it. You got to have the desire there. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
At least be willing to believe,
Right.
that it's
There has to be an
possible and that
openness.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, I- you know, inevitably, I'm wondering if you, as you began to experience more of the galactic consciousness and intuitive knowings and downloads that we get when we start to plug into that, like as far as Earth's history and this incredible hybrid that we call human, what
Mhm.
is your understanding of that and how we got here? What's the missing link?
Well, Gaia was very devolved. We weren't awake to anything. So, I really relate to the three waves of volunteers that there is assistance here that's helping raise the planetary consciousness and the vibration. So, yes, there is hybrids. Yes, there is beings here that are seeding the planet, but it's all source in different formations. So I don't want us to go into separation about this. I just want us to know that, yeah, source appears as the Pleiades, or source appears as you and I right now talking, but it's different bandwidths. Obviously, Gaians have not been very high vibrational, hence the assistance, hence now the ascension process since 2012 that is taking place now. But again, all of this energy is here and available for everyone who wants to open up and be intentional about it. But we gotta know about it, and then we got to start connecting and plugging into it so we can receive the vitamins, if you will. But it is here. The light is here, and it is available. And there is beings that are otherworldly, if you will, that are assisting in the global shift. That's what you would see the differences of, like, dire shifts in consciousness. Someone that's extremely high vibrational and one that's just like doesn't even know anything about presence or meditation. They're still God, but that just shows you it's all operating on different bandwidths and frequencies.
Mm,
It's amazing. And this is a
yeah,
multi-dimensional planet, hence why we can see so many variations of consciousness.
yeah,
Yeah.
and sense it, and I think for people who are, some people struggle. They've come into different types of ESP, if you will, but because they have not sat long enough, that it gets scary for them, because they're perceiving things that they can't understand where it may come from, and they're perceiving it with a level of fear, as if, oh my God, something's wrong with me. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm losing my mind, and I'm always encouraging people, like, if you step back and it's like when you're watching, I don't watch horror movies anymore, but you used to learn as a kid, when a horror movie was on, you don't cover your eyes, you cover your ears, and then it's not scary anymore, right? So like, if you take away the fear, what happened? Well, then it's usually like, well, nothing actually happened to scare me, but we, like you said, we are multidimensional beings, and we are sending and receiving in a multitude of ways every second of every day, with every cell of our body. And that can be a lot for people who are, more naturally sensitive than others who don't have that kind of spiritual foundation. What
Right.
would you say to people who are struggling in that way right now?
Yeah. My love, create a practice, create a sacred space for yourself, indoors or outdoors or both. You know what I'm saying? And then find a community, a conscious community online or in the ground, that can support you in this. But the massive support is going to come from you and your hand on your own heart. So you got to remember, you got to show up for yourself every damn day and be your number one fan, because no one else is coming. So you got to start right now and loving yourself and honoring yourself and seeing yourself as a temple. And the more that you honor this, more light is going to come and be available for you. But we begin right now. Right now.
Well, there's only ever now, right?
That's right, brother. That's right. But we can squander our now with,
Right.
with
Oh, that's for
distractions.
sure. People are very good at that.
Yes.
You mentioned 2012. I've heard
Mhm.
so many things regarding that year, about why it is in particularly special and so monumental. And so what happened in 2012, as far as you understand it?
To me, it's just an open portal of energy that came through. And that's when a lot of beings started kind of waking up to their purpose. So, you know what I mean? Whether you're in college or you were a mom and a dad or you were a teen, it's like
Yeah.
things just started to wake up faster around that time. I know it did here. A lot of shifts and catalysts started happening, because we're
Yeah.
here for a purpose. And it's kind of like we got to get the show on the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Like now.
Uh, yeah.
Dive in now, baby. Let's anchor
Like
it
right now
now.
would be great.
Like right now. Yes.
It'd be fantastic. That's
Yes.
amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I understand that you also have children, right?
Yes. Two and pregnant with a third. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's right. That's what
Thank you. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
assistant said.
Mhm.
She said that you were just coming into the right
Yeah.
trimester in order
Yeah.
to be okay doing a podcast. So I was like,
Yeah.
All right. I was like, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations to
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Do
you.
you know if it's a boy or girl?
It's a boy. We just
Is
recently
it?
found out. So two girls, and then we're gonna have a boy. So nice
Oh,
little
that's
mix up.
perfect.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
perfect. That's so
Hmm.
exciting.
Thank
Um,
you.
so like my children are 14 and 12.
Mm,
My
mm,
14-year-old, he can listen to me all day talk about our multidimensional self, and
mm.
you know, like he's got a real thirst for it. You know, and then he's like, but I'm not going to talk about it with my friends. I was like,
Right, I get
but
you. He still wants his
listen,
own dharma. He wants his own
yeah.
experience. I get it. I get
I was
it.
like, don't worry. I was like, you don't, no one said you have to, but it's good that you understand. And then I had my 12-year-old who, he'd just rather not. He just kind of
It's
tunes me
okay.
out. He's just
Yeah,
not interested yet. And like,
it's okay.
I'm like, listen, I can't let you out of the house before I give you some basic understandings of
Mhm.
reality and God and how this whole thing works. And he was like, yeah, you know, he's still young. His voice hasn't dropped yet.
Oh, so
But he's
sweet.
like, well, we'll get to it, Poppy. I'm like, all right. All
Oh,
right.
bless his heart. He sounds
Yeah.
adorable. And
He's,
sometimes it's just that's his path. He wants to learn organically. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And sometimes that's just how it is. He might have that
Yeah.
in him. Yeah.
Yeah. And you probably homeschool your children, I'm sure.
Well, one of them, the other
One
one
of
is
them.
in public school. She has the
Okay.
decision though to come home. It's kind of
Oh,
like she
okay.
has the option to, which she may, but right now
Yeah.
just one of them. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I wanted to, but, both of my boys have a learning difference. You know, one of them is severely dyslexic. And so,
Mm,
you know, as much as I wanted to homeschool
I get
them, I
you.
was like, how do you,
I get
where do you
you.
begin when the,
Understandable, man. I
yeah,
get it. It's totally cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, so first of all, I'm so grateful for your time, and I
Mhm.
appreciate this
Yeah.
interview so much. It's
Mm.
I've long thought about, like, oh, if I wonder if I could just get her on to do. She doesn't do podcasts. I was like, I've never
Right.
seen her do a podcast. There's no way.
I,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna reach out. Maybe, you know, who cares? What's the worst that could
Yeah.
happen? Nothing.
Yeah.
um,
Here we are.
yeah, here
Stars
we are.
aligned. The stars aligned.
Yes,
Yes.
that's amazing.
Mhm.
So what would you say to people? You know, it's 2025 still for at least 15, 16 more days. And we're going to be moving to 2026. Um, what would you say to people who are still looking for something, you know, whether it be the return of their Messiah, the second coming, you know, people who are still sitting on their haunches and just kind of like hoping things change. What do you say to them?
Begin now. Don't get lost in this whole like consumeristic, materialistic kind of time zone we're in, with the Christmas and the holidays and all this kind of stuff. Use this time to begin your meditation practice. Use this time to go inwards. Study Joe Dispenza. Come to YouTube. Come hang out with me for a little bit.
Hmm.
Just dive into these things, even if you're just scratching the surface, because even when you merge fields with someone who's connected to the heart, it's going to uplift you even for a little bit. You'll have the experience. You'll feel it because we're all interconnected. And that can be juice enough for you to go, you know what?
I like
I'm gonna
this.
meditate. I'm gonna
Hmm.
dance. I'm gonna get my heart. I'm gonna buy that book. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's an what's the word? Ignition? I don't know. But the point is, you begin right now. This is your sign. Okay, you are the Messiah. You are the second coming. And if you want change in your external, change right now. Come into love. Love yourself. You deserve this, and you're worthy.
absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
big thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are worthy. You know,
Yes.
people get so hung up. I mean, I was hung up on it probably from the whole religious thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a big thing, but you cannot tell yourself enough. You are worthy of it all, you know, of it all the happiness, all the abundance, everything that, you know, people are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I'm just like, stop, like rid yourself of that. That is
Yeah.
that is the scarcity mindset clinging
Right.
on, you know,
Right.
just prune it and keep it gone and watch how things start to fall in your lap, you know,
That's right.
but
That's right, brother. Trust. Stay
trust.
optimistic. Yeah.
That's right. That's the true meaning, I think, of keep the faith, you know, have faith,
Yes.
trust.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's feeling. Faith is feeling, even
Yeah.
in the heart. Yeah.
Amazing. Anna,
Mm-hmm.
tell everyone where they can find you in case they don't people, I mean, they probably already know who you are, but tell them where,
Yeah, I'll give
I
you
know
my
you're on,
website.
you have
Yeah.
YouTube, you have
Yeah.
website,
I'm on
do you,
YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Animated
Patreon,
Anna,
right?
Patreon. I'm on
That's
Patreon. You
right.
can find all this under my YouTube, my channel, and my website is wonderfullynothing.com. I'd
Wonderfully
love to
nothing.
see you. I'd love to
That's
see
right.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
for everyone listening, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This will probably be a holiday special. I think it's right on the mark for that, for
Mm,
this the true spirit of the holiday and Christmas. Anna, thank you so much for your
thank you.
time and for beaming in. It's been
Mhm.
amazing.
Mm,
So grateful for your time and for your teachings.
thank you.
I'm a fan, long time.
Mm,
So I
love you,
appreciate
brother.
you.
Thank you. I
Love you
appreciate you
too.
too. Thank you for your
Thank you so
service to
much, Anna.
humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take
Mm.
care.
Take care, brother.
You too. Thanks, Anna.